questions, ordinary questions. I will say that this should be the end of the urgent questions. For those who have indicated that they wish to ask questions, should follow up through other channels. We now start our electrical question. Number 1, Dr. Lam Tai-fai. Well, there's such a hurry. Thank you, President. It has been reported that earlier on, some individuals and members of this council belonging to the pan-democratic camp met with senior officials of the United States of America, the USA, and the United Kingdom on issues relating to constitutional development, but the members concerned have declined the invitation of the Director of Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in Hong Kong, SAR, the Liaison Office, to discuss the related matters with him. The individuals concerned have indicated that they will take part in an action to organize over 10,000 people to block the roads in Central or occupy Central unless the constitutional development proposal put forward by the government meet their demands.
Separately, in reply to my question on whether letters of no objection would be issued for public assemblies or processions related to Occupy Central during his attendance at the question and answer session of this council earlier on, the Chief Executive CE said that the government could not sit back and do nothing, and it would not underestimate the eventuality of such an incident, and that he himself, the Security Bureau, and the Hong Kong Police Force attached great importance to this issue, and they were making due preparation on various fronts, including operational deployment. Also indicated that the government would not issue letters of no objection in respect of assemblies, demonstrations, and processions to any person who seeks to paralyze the financial center. In any event, the government would act in accordance with the law, and the police would resolutely enforce the laws should there be any unlawful acts. Meanwhile, he was given to understand that quite a number of financial institutions, industrial and trade organizations, as well as professional practices located in Central, were making preparations for instituting civil proceedings. They would demand the persons concerned to stop occupying and paralyzing Central by way of civil proceedings, and would seek court orders for the persons concerned to compensate for the economic losses so incurred once the situation of Central being paralyzed occurred. In this connection, would the government inform this council, first, whether it has identified any foreign forces meddling with Hong Kong affairs, including making indiscreet remarks on the direction of constitutional development, as well as advocating and supporting Occupy Central, if it has of the details, if not, the reasons for that. Second, whether it has looked into the reasons why individual pan-democrats, including former and incumbent members of the council, have had high-profile meetings with the Vice President of the USA, Consul General of the USA in Hong Kong, and the British Consul in Hong Kong, etc., to discuss constitutional development, while declining the invitation of the Director of Liaison Office for discussion on such issues, if it has of the details, if not, the reasons for that. And third, as the CE indicated that the government could not sit back and do nothing about Occupy Central, and was making due preparation on various fronts, but the government will assist the business and industrial sector or other individuals who suffer losses as a result of Occupy Central in claiming compensation from its organizers through legal means. If it will, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary, Mr. Deputy, it is a very important issue. We should get more members to listen to the government's reply. Quorum count, please.
政制及內地事務局
Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs, Mr. Deputy, in consultation with relevant bureaus, our consolidated reply to the question asked by Dr. Hon Lam Tai-fai is as follows. First, since the establishment of the Hong Kong SAR, the political structure of Hong Kong has been developing in the light of the actual situation in the Hong Kong SAR in a gradual and orderly manner towards the ultimate aim of universal suffrage in accordance with basic law and the relevant interpretation and decisions of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. Constitutional development is a matter for the Hong Kong SAR, and it is entirely an internal affair of China. Foreign governments should respect this principle and should not interfere in any way. And the Hong Kong SAR government would not be interfered by any foreign force. We also consider that political figures in Hong Kong should understand that the issue is highly sensitive. Second, the administration should not and cannot be the one to answer the second part of Dr. Lam's question. Dr. Lam may consider asking the relevant members of this council and relevant persons to better understand their acts and the rationale behind. Thirdly, organizers of Occupy Central have stated clearly that the aim of Occupy Central was to unlawfully paralyze Central, to force the central government to accede to their requests on constitutional development. In the event that it is to take place, should there be any breach of public safety, the peace, or public order, the government shall decisively take corresponding measures. If any legal person or individual considers that a loss is suffered as a result of unlawful activities of others and wishes to make a claim for damages, such a claim will certainly be made against the relevant parties through legal avenues. Mr. Lam. Well, we've been promised Hong Kong people in Hong Kong and high degree of autonomy. There are many criticisms saying that foreign forces are trying to create trouble. They are trying to jeopardize the sovereignty of our nation, discrediting our nation and interfering with our governance. It is said that there is support from foreign forces disturbing the public safety. Should there be the Occupy Central taking place, I think it will be saddening and worrying. Mr. Deputy, my question is simple. As a simple and competent government, I think a competent official should understand that prevention is better than cure. So I want to know about the specific measures on the part of the government to effectively prevent the foreign forces looming and getting more and more influential, so as to make sure that national sovereignty will not be affected, so that we have stability and prosperity, and then the people of Hong Kong can live peacefully. Please make sure that the official can answer my question squarely, because the main reply is very sloppy. It is saddening. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. In my main reply, I have already said that constitutional development is an affair for Hong Kong. It is also an affair for our motherland. Foreign countries should not say anything to interfere with that. In fact, at two levels, I understand that when our Foreign Affairs Ministry or when the Hong Kong SARG observes such a development, we have already made a follow-up action. Say, for example, early this month, in fact, the office of the Foreign Affairs Ministry of the People's of the PRC has also issued a statement saying that this is an internal affair and the Chinese government is against any interference or intervention on the part of foreign forces. For the Hong Kong SARG, whether it is at the level of the CE, the CS4A, or other directors of bureau, when we do deal with the consulate generals of foreign governments, but whenever we find that there is any interference with our internal affairs, we will certainly solemnly restate once again our position. He hasn't answered my question. Prevention is better than cure. So I want to know about the specific policies and measures to prevent or suppress the ever increasing and ever emerging interference, so as to protect the people of Hong Kong and to ensure economic development. I think he has answered your question. If you are not satisfied with this reply, you can pursue the matter on other forums. 69 members out of 70 cannot get an answer. You get it? If you are not happy, you can pursue it elsewhere. He said that 69 out of 70 members have not got an answer from him. So I want all the others to come back. So quorum, please.
張華峰議員。
Mr. Christopher Zhang. Mr. Deputy, earlier on, someone claimed that he represented the financial services industry. He called a press conference advocating the Occupy Central. He also got someone from the foreign forces to back him up. So I agree entirely with Mr. Lam. There are people who are born to want to curry favor from the foreign forces. And they would rather curry favor from the foreign forces than meet with the director of the liaison office. They think that with the support of foreign forces, they can fight with the central people's government. Your question, please. Last week, there was the storming of the Lechko. It is very likely that Occupy Central will take place. Does the police have any countermeasure to make sure that a number of landmarks of the financial services industry like BOC, Hong Kong MA, SFC, etc. will not be disturbed so that people will not be deterred from investing in Hong Kong? Otherwise, we have to pay dearly for this. So I also want to know whether we have got a legal aid system or something similar to that, so the SMEs who will be affected in the Occupy Central, which is illegal, to have their damages being compensated for. Please take your seat. Secretary for Security. Mr. Deputy, I would like to thank Mr. Zhang for his question. First of all, the founder of the Occupy Central movement wrote in different articles about his idea concerning Occupy Central. Mr. Tai, one of the founders of Occupy Central, on the 15th of April, wrote in an article saying that Occupy Central is a people's movement. As a founder, they could not make sure that it would be purely or solely peaceful. And after that, there were certain articles in the newspapers. Editorials also commented on this. It was said that the radicals had precedence, so the Occupy Central movement would develop in such a way that if you expect it to be peaceful and rational and non-violent, it would be unbelievable. Last week, there was the storming of the Lechko, and since then, two editorials in the newspapers said that with this experience, can anybody guarantee that Occupy Central will be peaceful? And then another comment was that violent attack against the Lechko means that Occupy Central cannot be peaceful. In other words, the society is concerned about the Occupy Central movement. The CE also said that he himself, the government, the Security Bureau, and the police take the matter very seriously in relation to the risk. We will be on the high alert. We will consider the risk of what may happen, and the police will deploy accordingly. In the course of it, I think we can find out more from our experience concerning previous major public events, and you can identify the police philosophies, and we will be mastering the intelligence. We will make an assessment. We will be fully prepared, and we will have different plans for different scenarios. We have to prevent high-risk events from happening. Should they be materialized, there should be a contingency plan, and then we should also plan for the worst-case scenario. The police have already prepared themselves and are still preparing actively in relation to the possible disruption in the course of Occupy Central movement. There is a working group to take care of this matter in terms of training, equipment, manpower, and operational details. The police have already got countermeasures. We have assessed the possible violence emerging. Of course, this will be one of the major areas of concern. As far as the police is concerned, The police performance in the past is known to everybody. In relation to the police handling of the possible problems, I am fully confident in the police. Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Deputy, Dr. Lam Tai-fai mentioned that members went to the U.S. to come into contact with the U.S. officials. I declare, once I met with the Secretary of State, Miss Rice, together with Martin Lee. Of course, it wasn't as formal an occasion as Premier Li Keqiang meeting with Her Majesty the Queen in the UK. Now, the leaders of the CPG as well as our officials often go overseas to meet with foreign leaders. Is it a matter of currying favor from the foreign forces? It is said that the Secretary for Security will be getting the intelligence. I think the SCMA's reply is full of mistakes. In other words, he hasn't mastered the intelligence. According to Dr. Lam's question, the purpose of Occupy Central is to paralyze the Central so as to force the CPG to accede to their requests. I think this is totally wrong. All along, the three founders of Occupy Central have not asked for paralyzing the Central. In fact, it's from me. What is your question? My question is, on the question of paralyzing the Central, of course, everybody is concerned. But then sometimes it's because of the improper action of the police and then the Central is paralyzed. It is suffering from schizophrenia. The police is also paranoid. Usually the police, well before the people take any action, will take the lead to close the roads, in particular the Garden Road. The road leading to the CE's office has always been unreasonably blocked and closed, leading to the traffic in the Central being paralyzed. So please tell us, since the assumption of office by Andy Zhang to be the CP, I think the police officers have become the licensed hooligans. Can you prevent the hooligans from paralyzing the Central? Secretary, first of all, I strongly disagree with what the honorable member has said in relation to his description of our colleagues. In recent years, procession and marches exceed 7,000 a year. Every day we have been handling the protests, procession and marches in a very smooth manner. The police officers are willing to take up their task, and they haven't complained, and I think we find the accusation most unfair, and I cannot agree with his comment. Just now, Mr. Albert Chan said that Occupy Central has not got the purpose to paralyze Hong Kong. My understanding of Occupy Central is based on the following. I read articles written by the founders of Occupy Central. If Mr. Albert Chan is to read what has been written by one of the founders, that is Professor Tai, he wrote an article on the 16th of January, and I would like to repeat what he said in this article entitled "The Most Lethal Weapon of Civil Disobedience." In order to have universal suffrage, I would resort to civil disobedience. Up to 10,000 protesters will be unlawfully mustered to block the main roads in Central in a bid to paralyze the political and commercial heart of the city. So this is the first point in his article. In his article, he went on to talk about the principles of the movement, and he explained why it will be lethal, because a number of principles have to be met. I want to single out the third one. Civil disobedience will break the law. That's the force of it. And then fourthly, persistence. Fifthly, civil disobedience is an unlawful act. Therefore, participants must pledge to bear the legal liability, the criminal liability. From this, you can see that the principles, the ideas behind Occupy Central would be like what Mr. Tai has said in his article. And then on the 15th of April, he also wrote another article, and I would like to repeat what he has said. He said that it is a mass movement. As the founder, indeed, the founders cannot assure that it will be absolutely peaceful, and therefore Occupy Central may end up in disruption, in chaos. That's why I've said that it is regarded as an event of high risk and it warrants our concern. As I have said, the police will look at the whole picture. The police will identify the various risks and then will come to a conclusion and will deploy the tactics, preventive, responsive, and will prepare for the first scenario. The police will be fully prepared, and as usual, I will be fully confident in the police. Mr. Buchen, he has been in the air-conditioned office for too long. I don't think he understands the reality. I took part in many processions and marches, and I can tell him that on many occasions, as a result of the poor judgment and wrong judgment of the police officers involved or their senior, and they have suffered from schizophrenia and they have deployed improperly. Mr. Buchen, please take your seat. Mr. Deputy, I know what you want to ask. How come that you know what I want to ask? You think the question hasn't been asked. You are not asking a new question. Which part of my question hasn't been answered? Secretary, anything to add? Don't try to guess what I think. Now my answer is for police officers to handle the large-scale public meetings and processions, they make a judgment in accordance with the actual circumstances. They have to take into account the overall public order and public safety, as well as the impact on the daily lives of the citizens, and we want to minimize the interruption. He hasn't answered the point about mental illness. Mr. Buchen, I haven't asked you to speak, don't speak. Ms. Elizabeth Quat, Mr. Chen Kam-lam. Just now, Mr. Albert Chen has described the law enforcement agencies, namely the police officers, as licensed hooligans. I think this is the greatest insult. Mr. Deputy, quorum count, please.
陳鑑林議員，你嘅規程。
Mr. Chen Kam-lam, you have a point of order. Mr. Deputy, just now, Mr. Chen described those who were maintaining the law and order of Hong Kong as licensed hooligans. This is unbelievable. I think this is the greatest insult towards the police force. This is most offensive as an insult. Mr. Deputy, please rule on this and please order Mr. Chen to withdraw his comment. There was a live broadcast of our proceeding. What Mr. Chen said was heard by everybody in Hong Kong, including the police force. I think people can have their own judgment. He is not offending any members, so I cannot rule that it is against the rules of procedures. How come the members can be so ignorant and wrongly raise a point of order? I haven't asked you to speak. If you are to do so, I will say that you are committing disorderly conduct and I will evict you. Ms. Elizabeth Kwok Clark.
葛珮帆議員。
Ms. Elizabeth Kwok, Mr. Deputy. First of all, Mr. Chen blatantly insulted the police officers in this chamber. I find it most regrettable, and I have to reprimand him strongly. On 2 occasions, the electrical complex was stormed. It shows that attempts to besiege a facility or to attack or storm a facility will easily go out of control. It will easily give rise to physical confrontation. Just now, Mr. Chen blatantly, openly said that he provoked and he advocated the Occupy Central movement. I think this is unbelievable. For those going to work in the Central Business District, they are really worried, and this will affect people's, in particular investors' interest to continue their business in Hong Kong. I want to know whether the administration has found out about the specific worries of the businesses, and have you ever planned to find ways to reduce the impact on the businesses? Who will give an answer? SCMA. Thank you, Ms. Kwok, for your answer. I try to give a reply in relation to the various parts of the question. As the S4S has said, the administration is very concerned about the advocacy for Occupy Central. I think many groups and individuals have become concerned about the impact on the society, including what the S4S has said and what the members have said, disrupting the order, affecting the business environment, eroding our competitiveness, and whether multinational corporations will withdraw from Hong Kong and relocate the business. Of course, the main traffic routes will be affected and traffic will be paralyzed. Again, this will have a serious impact on public safety and public order. This will also jeopardize life and limbs as well as the properties of the citizens of Hong Kong. Just now, members were concerned about the impact on traffic. For the traffic on the Hong Kong island, it is very busy. For any disruption, for any blockade to take place in the central, it will also have a spillover effect to other main arteries of the Hong Kong island. Currently, we have got east-west running Harcourt Road and Condit Road. If there is Connaught Road Central, and then should there be any blocking of the Central, then with the short period of time, the traffic in other areas will also be affected. Sheung Wan, Wan Chai, Causeway Bay, Happy Valley will also see traffic congestion, which will become very serious. Gloucester Road, Island Eastern Corridor, the Harbour Crossing, the Western Harbour Crossing, etc., will also be seriously affected, and then the scope may also extend to the Kowloon Peninsula. In terms of the economic impact, according to the assessment of the FSTB, the clearing companies, the stock exchanges, and other financial institutions do have contingency plans to deal with a possible interruption to their business, and they can also have a plan to follow in the case of an emergency, so that their core business will not be affected or have the impact be minimized. But still, Hong Kong is the central business district of Hong Kong, and most of the regulators are housed in the central. Should there be a major blockade in the central, unavoidably the financial activities and the related activities of Hong Kong will be affected, and then citizens using such services will also be inconvenienced. If this is to continue for a period of time, then the CBD cannot operate normally, even though there may be contingency plans on the part of the organizations involved, but then there will be knock-on effects from the traffic congestion. I'm afraid that it will have a negative impact on our financial services. Ms. Kwok, will they liaise with the commercial sector? Will there be guidelines so that even SMEs can understand what they can do to make sure that the business will not be disrupted in the case of an blockade in the central? SCMA, the police and the government in the past and in the days to come will talk to the chambers of commerce as well as the persons likely to be affected. There will be close liaison, and we understand that in the central we have many SMEs. If they are affected, they will be bearing the brunt, and they will suffer the highest amount of economic loss. We are still gauging the development, and as I have said, and as the SRS has pointed out, the police and the administration as a whole will have the different contingency plans to respond to the matter as it develops. We hope that we can assure that and make sure that the people of Hong Kong, the SMEs, will not be disturbed and inconvenienced by the unlawful act. We have spent over 26 minutes.
Question number 2, the Honorable Paul Tse. Thank you, President. The Medical Council of Hong Kong, MCHK, is vested with statutory powers to conduct inquiries into complaints about the professional conduct of registered medical practitioners, and may take disciplinary actions against those practitioners found to be guilty of professional misconduct. It has been reported that MCHK receives about 500 complaints each year, but conducts disciplinary hearings on only 22 of such complaints on average. Some members of the public have criticized that the fact that MCHK is mainly composed of medical professionals will easily give rise to the situation of doctors harboring each other, such as imposing lenient penalties on those doctors guilty of professional misconduct. Moreover, MCHK has taken a very long time in handling some of the cases, causing grievances among the victims of medical incidents and their families. For instance, concerning the death of a newborn son of a couple in 2005, it is not until recently, that is 9 years after the incident, that MCHK has adjudicated that the doctor concerned is guilty of professional misconduct. This case has aroused wide public concern about the composition, operation, and complaint handling procedures of MCHK. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has assessed if the current composition criteria for appointment of its members and modus operandi of MCHK are conducive to its handling of complaints in an objective, fair, credible, and efficient manner? If it has, of the methodology and outcome of the assessment, as well as the relevant follow-up actions taken, if not the reasons for that, and whether it can immediately conduct such an assessment, as some members of the public consider that the penalties meted out by MCHK to doctors guilty of professional misconduct are often too lenient, thus lacking sufficient deterrent effect of the follow-up actions the authorities would take. 2. as it has been reported, that the couple in the case quoted above have spent more than $1 million on legal fees and engaging medical specialists to prepare independent assessment reports, etc., of the policies and measures put in place by the authorities to assist those victims of medical incidents and their families who have financial difficulties and who lack medical expertise in seeking justice. And 3, whether it will examine the establishment of a new independent redress mechanism, such as Office of the Ombudsman for Medical Services, dedicated to handling complaints about medical incidents. Thank you. Secretary for Food and Health, Mr. Raymond Chan. According to ROP 17.2, a quorum count, please.
食物及衛生
Secretary for Food and Health. President, the Medical Council of Hong Kong, MCHK, is an independent statutory body established under the Medical Registration Ordinance for handling matters relating to the registration and regulation of medical practitioners in Hong Kong, including the conduct of inquiries and disciplinary proceedings concerning the professional conduct of registered medical practitioners. The MCHK comprises 24 medical practitioners and 4 lay members. Among the medical practitioner members, 7 are elected by registered medical practitioners, 7 others are elected by the Hong Kong Medical Association, while the rest are nominated by the Director of Health, the University of Hong Kong, the Chinese University of Hong Kong, the Hospital Authority, and the Hong Kong Academy of Medicine, and appointed by the Chief Executive. The 4 lay members are also appointed by the Chief Executive. The MCHK handles complaints received against registered medical practitioners, conducts investigations into allegations of professional misconduct, and takes disciplinary actions in accordance with the procedures laid down in the Medical Registration Ordinance and the Medical Practitioners Registration and Disciplinary Procedure Regulation. If the MCHK finds that a medical practitioner is guilty of professional misconduct, it can impose punishment by issuing disciplinary orders or even revoke professional registration. Upon receipt of a complaint concerning the professional conduct of a registered practitioner in Hong Kong, the Preliminary Investigation Committee or PIC of the MCHK will conduct preliminary investigation into the case and make recommendation to the MCHK as to whether or not an inquiry should be conducted. The PIC comprises 7 members, including a chairman and a deputy chairman elected from among members of the MCHK and a lay member of the MCHK. In accordance with the Medical Registration Ordinance and the relevant established procedures, the MCHK processes all complaints according to any or all of the following 3 steps. A. Initial consideration by the chairman and the deputy chairman in consultation with a lay member of the PIC to decide whether the complaint is groundless, frivolous, or not pursuable, and therefore the MCHK cannot or should not proceed further with it, or that it should be referred to the PIC for full consideration. B. Conduct of a PIC meeting to examine the complaint, as well as to consider the explanation of the medical practitioner concerned, with a view to forming a decision as to whether there is a prima facie case to refer the complaint to the MCHK for a formal inquiry. And C. Inquiry by a panel of the MCHK comprising at least 5 council members, including a lay member, to hear evidence from both the complainant and the defending registered medical practitioner. The MCHK conducted 119 disciplinary inquiries in the 5 years from 2009 to 2013, of which only 7 were found unsubstantiated. The punishment imposed on medical practitioners included warnings and reprimands. In 76 cases, the registration of the medical practitioners was revoked, and the period of removal from the General Register ranged from 1 month to permanent removal. The MCHK's judgment with reasons are uploaded onto its website, and the relevant sentences are also gazetted in accordance with the Medical Registration Ordinance. In a bid to expedite the complaint handling process and inquiry proceedings so as to cope with an increasing number of complaints, the MCHK suggested in June this year to increase the number of lay assessors and allow lay assessors to substitute lay members of the MCHK in forming the quorum in preliminary investigations and inquiries. The administration is actively considering the proposals. 2. The government attaches great importance to the quality of healthcare services and the safety of patients and endeavors to establish an effective mechanism for handling medical incidents and complaints. In this regard, different institutions play different roles and perform different functions in the process of handling medical complaints or incidents. In addition to the MCHK, and other statutory regulatory bodies for healthcare professions, which have established procedures for handling complaints against professional misconduct. The Hospital Authority has also put in place a mechanism to handle complaints lodged by patients, their families, and the public. Upon receipt of complaints against private hospitals or reports of medical incidents, the Department of Health will conduct investigation and require the hospitals concerned to take appropriate rectifying measures or refer the cases to relevant professional regulatory bodies for follow-up actions. Outside the medical system, the Office of the Ombudsman is responsible for investigating complaints against public services, including medical service. With a focus on the existence of any maladministration, incidents involving death are referred to the coroner's court for inquests. Patients or their families may also take legal action against the relevant medical institutions or personnel through civil proceedings. The judiciary will consider whether the plaintiff suffers any loss and award damages accordingly. Complainants who wish to seek legal advice may make use of the free legal advice service provided by the legal advice centers and district offices and the 2 legal professional bodies. The Legal Aid Department, meanwhile, provides legal representation for eligible applicants in civil or criminal proceedings in the courts of Hong Kong. 3. Against the backdrop of a growing and aging population which poses increasing demand on healthcare services, the government has set up a high-level steering committee to conduct a strategic review on healthcare manpower planning and professional development in Hong Kong. Chaired by the Secretary for Health and Food and Health, the steering committee will assess the manpower needs of the healthcare professions which are subject to statutory regulation and put forward recommendations regarding their professional development. The scope of the strategic review covers the regulatory framework for healthcare professions, including the functions and composition of the regulatory bodies concerned. The administration will follow up on the recommendations of the steering committee as appropriate upon completion of the review. Thank you, Mr. Paul Tse. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. The Secretary said that in June, the MCHK made some proposals, but then early in 2001, there was a reform proposal or report. It said that there should be an independent committee made up by or chaired by a retired or incumbent judge, and there should be 3 lay members instead of 1, that penalties should also be enhanced. However, nothing has been done about these proposals. If we need to tackle these problems, it is not just the manpower. Now the profession has an advantage in terms of numbers. Sorry, what is your follow-up question? Yes, Mr. Deputy, I need to give a little background before I can ask my supplementary. Right now, there are 28 members at MCHK, 24 are professionals. And in any inquiry, out of 7 members, 5 are professionals. And then in any formal inquiry, out of 5 members, 4 are professional doctors. So in terms of knowledge, experience, and the number, the professionals always have the higher or upper hand. In the UK, out of 24, 13 are professionals, and then 6 can line up to form a panel to conduct inquiries. So the ratio is much more normal. But Secretary, are you still saying that we should wait? Does it mean that you have turned a blind eye to the needs of Hong Kong people and you are favoring the medical profession? Secretary, Mr. Deputy, Mr. Chair cited the UK case. Actually, in terms of manpower resources and in the steering committee to review manpower planning, we have also taken reference from overseas examples. We have not come up with a formal proposal yet, but we have taken reference from overseas cases. But then in other countries, the regulation of medical practitioners may not be the same as that in Hong Kong. I cannot say that UK is like that, so we should follow, because other countries do other things as well. And actually, this is a big controversy in Hong Kong. In June, the MCHK made some proposals, and the main proposal is to include lay assessors. this will not have a direct impact on the composition of the MCHK, so it may not be so controversial, but it will, to a certain extent, help to achieve the effect of what we want MCHK to do, and that is the concerns raised in the main question. For example, whether we can increase the efficiency of disciplinary proceedings of the MCHK. I'm sure with the addition of lay assessors, the efficiency will be enhanced. And with lay assessors in place, they are not exactly members of the MCHK. They will not have any impact on the policies of the MCHK. But in terms of disciplinary proceedings and also the PIC inquiries, there will be more participation by non-professionals. And to a certain extent, it can respond to the public's concern about transparency of the inquiries. Dr. Leung Ka-lau. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. As lawyers, they have this slogan: justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done.
咁究竟醫委會嘅問題係佢唔公正啊？因為
So with regard to the medical council, is it that it is not just, or it is that justice is not seen? According to the reply of the secretary, in every step from complaint to PIC to formal inquiry, you already have a lay member taking part. All along, I have not heard any complaint from the lay member that he or she is outnumbered. Very often, the lay member tends to agree with the members who are professionals. There was a case last year in which a doctor who was registered at that time was complained of indecent assault. In the court, he was not found guilty. At the MCHK, he was subject to permanent removal from the general register. So what is the problem of the MCHK? I would have to point this out. I have received many complaints. One complaint was from a doctor. Sorry, Dr. Leung Ka-lau. I have a few words here. I have just a few words here. I have to talk about the complaint first before I can ask the question. The complaint was, this doctor was also complained of indecent assault. The complainant lodged the complaint in January, and 4 months later, the MCHK told the complainant to report to the police. So this is poor efficiency. It is not the PIC, but the Secretariat's poor efficiency. And I have received numerous complaints saying that the complainants would lodge the complaint and they were made to wait 1 year, 2 years without knowing what the progress was. So I think the question is about the Secretariat of the MCHK. It has very poor efficiency and transparency. My question for the Secretary is, you now want to add lay assessors. It would not help. The crucial point is whether you can add manpower to the Secretariat. One, to improve its efficiency. If it is a criminal act or suspicion of criminal act, you should tell people to report to the police immediately. And also, you should increase transparency. You should let complainants know the progress of the complaint. Is he or she waiting for papers or for a meeting to be conducted? And also, even if the PIC decides not to refer a case to the council, it should give a detailed explanation to the complainants. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Deputy, the Bureau will talk to the D of H from time to time because the Secretariat of the MCHK is provided by the D of H, and the Bureau will review the operation of the MCHK in this regard from time to time with the D of H, and if necessary, will provide the resources. Mr. Ibrahim Sheikh. Sorry, Dr. Leung Ka-lau, he has not answered your question. Which part of your supplementary has not been answered? I have asked about transparency and the details of the progress and also the timetable for hearing the complaint and also the detailed reasons for the PIC not to refer complaints for formal inquiry. Secretary. This is already included in what I said just now, and that is the Bureau and the D of H review the work efficiency of the Secretariat of the MCHK from time to time. Mr. Ibrahim Sheikh, in the main reply, it is said that the MCHK will now invite lay assessors, that it will consider to do this. Is there a timetable for this to be done? How many lay assessors will be added so the MCHK can implement its duties? Secretary, the proposal from the MCHK to the Bureau is to add 10 lay assessors. Indeed, we said that they would consider doing it, but if you ask for our initial reaction, we found the proposal worthy of follow-up. Therefore, I can say that I will proactively pursue the proposal. Once we have a conclusion, we will propose legislative amendments as soon as possible. I mentioned the MCHK's proposal, and it has to be entrenched in legislation. Mr. Abraham Shek, which part of your supplementary has not been answered? If it has to go through the legislative route, then we'll have to wait many more years, and there will be delays. Secretary. Mr. Abraham Shek, you can rest assured about this. As I said, there are other proposals which I also mentioned. Those have to do with changing the composition of the MCHK, and that would be quite controversial. But now the MCHK has proposed to us to increase lay assessors who are not lay members of the MCHK. Rather, these are lay assessors outside the existing composition of the MCHK. This has to be subject to legislative amendment as well, but it is not controversial. Therefore, we are confident that this can be taken forward soon. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. We were talking about the time taken to handle complaints. Actually, members of the public are also concerned that the doctors are favoring doctors at the MCHK. Many members of the public are saying that the MCHK is taking delaying tactics, and so many years later, the penalty meted out to doctors who are found guilty will be very light. And now you just add non-professionals to the MCHK. Do you think it is an effective measure to take care of the concerns of the public? With review to the administration's review and the future direction, what are your intentions to improve the operation of the MCHK? Secretary, I of course understand, Mr. Deputy, that there are concerns about penalties meted out by the MCHK after complaints are found to be substantiated. I know there are different views about such penalties. But I'd like to point out that, in fact, the nature of the penalties is quite serious. Number one, if it is a reprimand, talking about registered medical practitioners, especially those in private practice, they must mind very much the confidence of his patients and the community in him. If there is a public reprimand from the MCHK, which is also gazetted, it is really a very serious matter indeed. And as I pointed out, many cases had to do with the revocation of license or suspension of license. Some people may comment that the period for suspension or removal from the register may sometimes be very short. But you must understand, no matter how short the period is for suspension of practice, even after the suspension period is over, there will not be automatic reinstatement. The doctor will have to apply to the MCHK, which has to be satisfied about his professional conduct and standard, that he has taken remedial measures so that the MCHK is satisfied about his conduct and professional standard before he can be reinstated. We have spent over 20 seconds on this question.
Next question. I request a quorum call. Question number 3, Dr. Kwok Ka-ki. President, in attending the question and answer session of this Council last month, the Chief Executive, CE, stated that the government would not underestimate the eventuality of Occupy Central, and therefore he himself, the Security Bureau, and the Hong Kong Police Force attached great importance to this issue. They were making due preparation of various fronts, including operational deployment. CE also pointed out that as Occupy Central would paralyze Central, the government would not issue letters of no objection in respect of assemblies, demonstrations, and processions to any person who seeks to paralyze the financial center. In addition, the initiators of Occupy Central will hold a ballot on the 22nd of this month, inviting the public to choose a proposal for selecting CE by universal suffrage in 2017, and Occupy Central will strive for the implementation of that proposal. Regarding the government's deployment against Occupy Central, would the government inform this Council, 1, whether it would consider incorporating the proposal chosen through the aforesaid ballot by Occupy Central into the document for the second round consultation on constitutional development, so as to avoid the occurrence of Occupy Central? If it were not, of the policies and procedures based on which the authorities would decide whether to incorporate the proposals supported by the public into that consultation document. 2, whether there were cases in the past 5 years in which the police had already made decisions of refusal to issue letters of no objection before the organizers of assemblies or processions submitted their applications. If there were, of the number and details of such cases, whether the police have decided, in accordance with the aforesaid remarks made by the CE, not to issue letters of no objection to public assemblies or processions involving Occupy Central. If they have so decided, whether it is because of the fear that such activities may subsequently develop into Occupy Central, whether such a practice is different from the established procedures adopted by the police in the past, and whether it would become a precedent, and 3, whether it would keep the personal information of the participants of Occupy Central for reference by government departments or other employers in future recruitment exercises, if it will, of the details, including the legal and policy basis for such a practice, and whether its purpose is to discourage the public from participating in Occupy Central. Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. Mr. President, in a consultation with relevant bureaus, I'll give a consolidated reply to the questions raised by Dr. Kwok as follows. The 5-month consultation on the methods for selecting the CE in 2017 and forming the Legislative Council in 2016 ended on the 3rd of May 2014. The administration is currently consolidating and analyzing views received during the consultation period, as well as compiling the consultation report, with a view to assisting the CE to submit a report to the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, NPCSC, to kickstart the 5-step process of constitutional development. The administration will faithfully reflect views received during the consultation period in the consultation report. As we have mentioned in the consultation document, the proposals should be legally strictly in accordance with the basic law and relevant interpretation and decisions of the NPCSC. Politically, the proposal should stand a reasonable chance of gaining support of the community and securing passage by 2/3 majority of members in the Council. And operationally, the proposal should be practical and practicable. In the second stage consultation document to be published at the end of this year, the Hong Kong SAR government would put forth specific proposals that are in accordance with the basic law and relevant interpretation and decisions of the NPCSC, and on such basis, further forge consensus in the community and work together to successfully implement universal suffrage for the CE election in 2017 as scheduled in accordance with the law. 2. According to the Public Order Ordinance, any public meeting or procession, the attendance of which exceeds the limit prescribed in the ordinance, i.e. public meetings of more than 50 persons and public processions of more than 30 persons, shall give a notice to the Commissioner of Police, CP, not less than 7 days prior to the intended event. In consideration of public order and public safety, CB may prohibit, object to, or impose conditions on a notified public meeting or procession, and shall inform the organizers of his decision in writing. Any condition or conditions imposed shall be explicitly stated in the letter of no objection to the organizers beforehand. A public meeting or procession may only be conducted if CP does not prohibit or object to it. Organizers may appeal to the Statutory and Independent Appeal Board on public meetings and procession if they consider CP's decision unreasonable. Under the statutory notification mechanism, the police shall, on the basis of the above principle, deliberate on each notification of public meeting or public procession received, according to the law, and shall inform the organizers of the decision in writing. It is only upon receipt of a notification to hold a public order event shall the police consider the issue of the letter of no objection and the corresponding conditions. During the Legislative Council's question and answer session on the 22nd of May, the CE expounded the government's principle for handling the matter in question by pointing out that, I quote, the government will not issue letter of no objection in respect of assemblies, demonstrations, and processions to any person who seeks to paralyze the financial center. In his reply, he further indicated that the government would act in accordance with the law. The CP did not and will not interfere in CP's decisions on the handling of public processions and meetings. In accordance with the laws of Hong Kong, as in the past, the police shall handle all public processions and meetings according to the law. It is worthwhile to note that no public meeting has ever been organized with an aim to cause a large-scale paralysis of Central. We'd like to take this opportunity to remind the public that the initiators of Occupy Central activity have earlier made it clear that occupying Central by civil disobedience is an act against the law. As early as January 2013, one of the initiators, in a newspaper article entitled "The Most Lethal Weapon of Civil Disobedience," remarked that in a bid to paralyze the political and economic hub of Hong Kong, non-violent means of civil disobedience would be employed by rallying up to 10,000 protesters to occupy the main roads in Central illegally for a long period of time, with a view to forcing the central government to accede to their demand. In May 2013, the initiator, in another article entitled "What Offences Could Be Committed by Occupy Central," further pointed out the laws and the participants might possibly contravene, as well as the penalty to which first offenders might be subject to. Having regard to these open statements, the initiator of the movement has explicitly admitted that Occupy Central by civil disobedience is an act against the law. 3. All government departments have to strictly comply with the provisions in the Personal Data Privacy Ordinance when collecting and handling personal data, unless the exemptions as set out in the PDPO are applicable or the prescribed consent of the data subject has been obtained. Personal data may only be used for the purpose for which the data was collected or a directly related purpose. Dr. Kwok Ka-ki, the reply from the Secretary is disappointing. If we have genuine universal suffrage, there's no need to occupy Central. The initiator have made it very clear. The government is now reversing the relationship. In March, according to a deliberated public opinion survey by the RTHK, many people would like to have universal suffrage system. The government is not listening to public views. Mr. Eddie Ng is now threatening schools and students and teachers. And Mr. C.Y. Leung bypassed the authority of the CP, make a decision in this council saying that no letter of no objection will be issued. And then there was a white paper from the State Council, and then there were unknown hackers trying to hack the website of Occupy Central. I think it's the government that has to resolve the problems. 70% of our people are in favor of civil nomination. If the government is alive to public opinion, this option should be put in the second stage of a consultation document. If there is a genuine universal suffrage, there will be no Occupy Central campaign. So it's that the government is just trying to create more trouble, and then we are not going to get any genuine system of universal suffrage. Secretary, in my mail reply, we have set out the current progress of work and in what stage we are in. And I have set out clearly in the mail reply that for the next stage, that is before the end of this year, the SAR government would put forth a specific proposal in respect of the two sets of electoral methods. And then we would put forth specific proposals and try to forge consensus in the community. And before Of course, the proposals will be in line with the basic law and the relevant decisions and interpretations of the MPCSC. And we hope that the proposals we set forth will be supported by the community and a two-thirds majority of this council. We are now analyzing the first stage, the findings in the first stage of consultation. Dr. Kwok mentioned a number of opinions. We have noted all of them. And in the newspaper, there are other opinions, surveys. We will pay attention to all these. We also pay attention to what happened in the past 6 months, because after the first stage consultations, a lot of discussion has taken place concerning the proposals and whether some proposals are in line with the laws and some are not. I believe this picture will be clearer and clearer as we move on. Mr. Chen Chi-chin, I request a quorum call.
郭家麒議員，你是否認？
Kwok Ka-ki, he has not answered my question. My question is clear. The government is going to exclude a proposal supported by 7 people of our people. Is the government trying to stir up the confrontation so that we are going to see Occupy Central come to pass, and we're not going to have universal suffrage? Well, I think the question has been answered. You should follow up the relevant issues through other channels. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, in the second part of the reply, the government states that the police would, as usual, deal with all application or public meetings and processions in accordance with the law. This morning, I heard from Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen on the radio that in the incident that protesters stormed this council, there was a police officer who was there trying to instigate protesters. So what would the administration do in respect of such an allegation? How are you going to deal with such allegations? Which secretary? Secretary for Security. Chairman, President, the police in handling the large-scale public meetings will not assign any officer to fan the emotion of the participants. I hope that those who make the allegation should provide information to the police so that it can be dealt with fairly, and that the allegation can be looked into to see if it is substantiated. In the reply, we mentioned that in dealing with relevant activities, we're going to adhere to established procedures. We're talking about ordinary, normal public meetings and processions in accordance with CAP 245, Public Order Ordinance, and that is public meetings of more than 50 persons or public processions of more than 30 persons. And if they took place in a public place, then according to the Public Order Ordinance, Section 6, Section 17 are relevant, the police should be informed. The Public Order Ordinance contains clear stipulations that such public activities are subject to a notification requirement, and how the CP would handle such applications. So we are referring to the Public Order Ordinance, and the relevant procedures involved. Mr. Chen Hanpan, a small number of protesters tried to storm this council, so the so-called peaceful Occupy Central activity is just a fraud. There's no way that it can be done peacefully. If you want to occupy a place, and then the police issue a letter of no objection to such an activity, then it would be just a tacit approval or tacit support. Mr. Chen, please raise your question. I think the question is very vague. The administration is not specific. Will the administration tell the public that they should be rest assured the administration will refuse to issue any letter of no objection to any activity that claimed to occupy a particular place, and then it would done everything to safeguard people's life and properties? Secretary for Security. In Hong Kong, we have rule of law. In handling public activities, public possessions, we have to comply with the relevant laws. And that is, we have to comply with the Public Order Ordinance, CAP 245. for large-scale public meetings or processions, and that is those attended by 50 persons in respect of public meetings or by more than 30 persons in respect of public processions, there are certain requirements of notification. A notice has to be given to the Commissioner of Police. If there's no notification, then it's a violation of the Public Order Ordinance. And if someone participates in unauthorized public activities like this, it may be a contravention of different provisions in the Public Order Ordinance. For example, Section 17A. In any public meeting, and if a police officer gives an order which is not complied with, then it's a violation of Section 17A. If someone participates in unlawful assemblies, then it contravenes the Public Order Ordinance. The maximum penalty is 5 years imprisonment. If a serious congestion is caused without any reasonable justification, it's against the Summary Offences Ordinance, and that is the offense of obstruction. The penalty is 3 months imprisonment. If it's more serious, it will be a violation of Section 18, illegal gathering. And if the illegal activities got out of hand and chaos are caused, then it's possible that other provisions in the Public Order Ordinance will be violated, and the penalties are even more severe. I have to stress again that it's our right, it's everyone's right to express one's views, but it must be done lawfully and peacefully. The question has not been answered. Please repeat the question. If someone has stated openly that they are going to occupy a place, will the administration issue a letter of no objection to such an activity? Of course, it depends on the case in question. First, whether a notification has been given, a notice has been given under the Public Order Ordinance. If not, we deal with the case in accordance with the POO. And if there's no notification, then it's a possible violation of the POO, then there are certain provisions that we can invoke to deal with the particular activity. Well, when Mr. Gandhi led people to produce salt near the seaside, and also Mr. Luther King Jr. did not apply for permission when he led a procession to Washington. So Mr. Tam has quoted Mr. Benny Tai's articles, and I take it that he has read the articles of Professor Tai. Professor Tai is saying that if we have a genuine universal suffrage implemented, there will be no need to occupy Central. Mr. Tam, as a member of the trio responsible for the constitutional development, how would he forge or lead Hong Kong people in forging a consensus so that in 2017 we'll be able to achieve what Professor Tai has wanted, and that is that there's no screening, and we are going to have a genuine universal suffrage system. Secretary for Constitutional Mainland Affairs. I mentioned the work ahead in the latter half of this year. We have submitted the report on the first round of consultation, and then after the CE has triggered the 5-step process by submitting a report to the MPCSC, then we'll embark on the second stage of public consultation. And of course, at that stage, we are going to put forth specific proposals from the administration, and we'll try to forge consensus in the community and try to win the support of 2/3 of members in this council. So there's a need for more discussion and communication. But there are two factors. First, whatever we do, it must be legal. That is in accordance with the basic law and the relevant interpretations and decisions of NPCSC. And then all parties concerned must use means that are in line with Hong Kong laws in fighting for whatever they want to achieve. Of course, there must be a basis of mutual trust established. Anyone who aspires to fight for their goals should not resort to threat or violence. That would not be a good basis to get started. I hope in future communication, all sides, all parties will show the utmost concern for genuine communication, and only by doing that can we achieve universal suffrage in 2017. Mr. Christopher Chung. Thank you, President. In replying to Mr. Kwok Ka-ki's question in respect of the illegal Occupy Central activity, he says in his reply that from the open remarks made by the initiated, they already admitted that the movement of occupying Central by civil disobedience is an act against the law. In the past 2 Fridays, we saw extreme violent acts when protesters stormed this council. So my question for the Security Bureau is this: since such acts took place, how can the Crime Prevention Bureau of the police prevent such crimes? Because the acts have already been committed. So what would you do? What would the police do to prevent the illegal Occupy Central movement, so as to prevent loss to people's properties, lives and property? The initiator of the Occupy Central campaign have on various occasions talk about their thinking, their arrangements. So we wait when it is going to really happen. I am confident in the police, because the police force is a elite force and is experienced in handling such large-scale activities, is a proven one, and the police have made all the necessary preparations. They have set up a task force to look into relevant matters, and they have collected information on the latest development. They will assess the assessment, they will make full preparations, and they would provide for different scenarios. For example, how to prevent, how to respond, how to make preparation for the worst case scenarios. In terms of equipment, manpower, and technical aspects, they have made full preparations. I have 100% confidence in them. My question has not been answered because they admit they are going to conduct an illegal activity. Why hasn't the government arrested these perpetrators? I believe the question has been answered, and we have spent 24 minutes on this question. We will move on to the next question now.
Question for the Honourable Hon Kwok Ka-ki. Thank you, President.